Hey Vikings Nation, what's going on? Purple Faithful, buckle up, because today's Minnesota Vikings news is one of those stories that hits hard both on the field and off it. This is one of those moments where talent, trust, and tough decisions all collide at once. There's a serious conversation happening inside the Vikings building right now, and it centers around one of the most gifted young wide receivers this franchise has drafted in years. Jordan Addison's future in Minnesota is suddenly far more complicated than anyone expected just months ago. So stay locked in because we're breaking everything down piece by piece, emotion by emotion, fact by fact. This is about football, accountability, money, and the direction of the Minnesota Vikings moving forward. Now let's set the table. Jordan Addison is coming off another productive season statistically, but the headlines right now have nothing to do with yards or touchdowns. They have everything to do with decisions made away from the stadium lights. Earlier this week, Addison was arrested in Florida on probable cause trespassing, booked into county jail, and later released after posting bond. That alone raises eyebrows, but when you zoom out, it becomes even more concerning. This was Addison's third arrest in less than 3 full years since the Vikings selected him in the first round of the 2023 NFL Draft. 3 incidents. 3 red flags. And now the Vikings are forced to ask some very hard questions. Timing matters in the NFL, and this timing could not be worse. The offseason after a player's third year is massive, especially for first-round picks like Addison. By May 1st, the Minnesota Vikings must decide whether to exercise his 5th-year option. That option would lock Addison in for the 2027 season at a projected cost of around $17.5 million. This is also the moment when players become eligible for long-term contract extensions. So everything Addison does right now, on and off the field, directly affects his financial future and the Vikings' long-term plans. From a pure football standpoint, this wouldn't even be a debate. Jordan Addison is an elite talent. His route running, body control, and ability to score in the red zone are undeniable. Even in what many consider a down season, Addison still produced close to 900 yards and double-digit touchdowns. That's despite drops and a passing offense that struggled at times as a unit. In his first 2 seasons combined, he proved he can be a difference-maker. On talent alone, the Vikings would likely pick up that 5th-year option without hesitation. But football isn't played in a vacuum, and the Minnesota Vikings know that better than anyone. When you invest tens of millions of dollars into a player, reliability matters just as much as raw ability. Addison's off-the-field history is now impossible to ignore. Before his rookie season even began, he was cited for driving 140 miles per hour, a misdemeanor that raised immediate concerns. Then came the July 2024 incident, where he was arrested for DUI after being found asleep in his vehicle. That led to a 3-game NFL suspension to open the 2025 season. And if that wasn't enough, shortly after returning from that suspension, Addison was benched for the first quarter of a London game after missing a mandatory walkthrough. Pattern matters, and patterns are forming. Now we add this latest arrest to the list, and suddenly the conversation changes completely. It's no longer about whether Jordan Addison can play. It's about whether the Vikings can trust him. Trust is everything in a locker room. Coaches need to know they can depend on you. Teammates need to know you'll be there every Sunday. With each new incident, that trust gets tested more and more. And inside the Minnesota Vikings organization, those conversations are happening right now. Head coach Kevin O'Connell addressed the situation carefully during his year-end press conference. His words were calm, measured, and very telling. He made it clear that he had just learned about the incident and didn't want to speculate. He emphasized the importance of gathering facts before jumping to conclusions. That response shows professionalism, but it also shows caution. The Vikings are clearly in information-gathering mode, not decision-making mode, at least publicly. Behind closed doors, though, it's a different story. The front office has to evaluate risk, not just production. And that's where things get uncomfortable. Every additional incident increases concern about whether Addison can stay out of trouble long-term. Fair or not, that's the reality of the NFL. The Vikings have to protect the locker room culture they've worked so hard to build. No player, no matter how talented, is above that. So what does this actually mean for Addison's future? The honest answer is that nobody knows yet, but the options are narrowing. One possibility is that the Vikings still pick up the fifth-year option and revisit extension talks next offseason, assuming Addison stays out of trouble moving forward. Another option is declining the fifth-year option and allowing him to reach free agency in 2027, effectively shortening the commitment and reducing risk. There's also the trade angle, but let's be real. Multiple off-the-field incidents almost certainly hurt Addison's trade value across the league. And let's not forget the financial side. Addison has likely already cost himself a significant amount of money on his next contract. Whether that's in Minnesota or elsewhere, NFL teams pay for certainty. Right now, Addison represents uncertainty, and uncertainty is expensive. This situation doesn't just affect Addison. It sends ripple effects through the entire wide receiver room. One name that suddenly becomes very important is Jalen Nailor. The Vikings' number 3 receiver is an unrestricted free agent coming off back-to-back solid seasons. Nailor has posted at least 400 yards and 4 touchdowns in consecutive years. He's reliable, steady, and hasn't brought any off-the-field baggage. If the Vikings start to believe Addison isn't part of the long-term plan, does that make re-signing Nailor a higher priority this spring? General Manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah addressed that question carefully as well. He acknowledged the timing and emphasized that both short-term and long-term planning matter. He also offered a very human perspective on Addison, describing him as intelligent, confident, and a joy to be around the vast majority of the time. But then came the key line. It's about who you are on that 1% of days. Those moments that draw attention for the wrong reasons. Kwesi made it clear that those moments have real consequences when you're talking about contract extensions and roster construction. The Vikings aren't rushing anything. They're going to fact-find, gather information, and then have those conversations internally. They're supportive of Jordan Addison, but support doesn't mean blind commitment. Accountability still matters. And this is where Vikings fans come in. How do you feel about this situation? Would you still pick up Addison's fifth-year option based on talent alone? Or do you believe the Minnesota Vikings need to take a harder stance and protect the culture, even if it means moving on from a gifted player? This is one of the toughest balancing acts in professional sports. Talent versus trust. Potential versus predictability. There are no easy answers here, only calculated risks. What we do know is this. The next few months will be critical for Jordan Addison, both on and off the field. Every decision he makes from now on will be magnified, evaluated, and remembered. And for the Vikings, this will be a defining moment in how they handle young stars facing adversity. So Vikings Nation, I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should the Vikings stick with Addison long-term, or is it time to start planning for life after him? If you love real, passionate Minnesota Vikings news and honest conversations like this, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with every Vikings fan you know. Skol, and we'll see you in the next one.